All right, let's talk about something fascinating that happens in basically every relationship, but we rarely talk about it out loud. We're going to dive into the secret scripts and roles we play with our partners, and why, surprisingly, it might be one of the healthiest things you do. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever kind of felt like you and your partner are, well, playing parts? Like maybe one of you is always the responsible one, and the other is the fun, spontaneous one. Or one of you plans everything, and the other is just happy to go along for the ride. It can feel a little weird, right? But what if I told you it's not just normal, it's completely natural?
Yeah, you heard that right. Psychologists actually say that falling into these different roles isn't just natural. It can be a sign of a really healthy dynamic relationship. It's not about being fake. It's about finding different ways to connect with each other. So let's get into the why behind all this.
So, it turns out there are three big psychological reasons we do this, even in the most authentic, honest relationships. It all boils down to a few key things: getting our needs met, keeping the spark alive, and honestly, creating a safe space to be all the different parts of ourselves.
Okay, so these are the big three, right? Fulfilling our emotional needs, maintaining that sense of newness and excitement, and having a safe space to express the parts of us we keep hidden. These are pretty much the pillars for this whole idea. So let's take them one by one. First up, emotional needs. And just look at this list. Our needs can be kind of all over the place, can't they? One minute you want to be taken care of, and the next you want to feel like you're the one they need. You want to be admired, but you also want guidance. It's a lot, and no single person can be all of those things at once. So what do? We naturally shift into these roles, like being the caregiver sometimes or the leader other times, to help satisfy all these different desires for each other.
Okay, now this is where the brain science gets really cool. In any long-term relationship, your brain gets used to your partner. There's a word for it: habituation. And look, that comfort and routine, it's amazing, but it can also dial down the excitement factor a little bit. So by doing some light role playing, acting a little extra cute or pretending you're strangers meeting at a bar for a date night, you're injecting novelty back into the dynamic. It creates this fun little tension and keeps that flirtatious spark alive. And the third reason, it's all about safety. Let's be real, we all have parts of ourselves we don't just show to anybody. Maybe it's a desire to be in charge, or a really deep need to just depend on someone else for a little while, or just a super vulnerable side. A good relationship becomes this safe stage, where we can let those parts out to play. The person who's usually all tough and put together can suddenly play the part of someone who just wants to be pampered, and it's totally okay. There's no judgment. Okay, so that's the why. Now let's get into the how. Psychologists have actually pinpointed a few super common scripts that pop up in relationships all the time. As we go through these, see if any of them sound, well, a little familiar. You might be surprised. First up is a total classic: the caregiver and the receiver. This is probably one of the most common dynamics out there. You've got one partner who's all about providing that support and stability, the one asking, "Hey, did you remember to eat lunch today?" And then you have the other partner who feels safe enough to be more emotionally open, saying something like, "I had such a rough day, I just really need a hug." Next, we have the leader and the follower. Now, I want to be super clear here. This is not about one person being bossy or controlling the other. Not at all. It's just about the natural flow of things. Like, who's the one that usually plans the weekend getaway? Who figures out what you're going to have for dinner? One person takes the lead, and the other is totally cool with being guided. And the secret to making this healthy, as we'll see, is that these roles can switch back and forth. Oh, I love this next one: the mentor and the learner. This happens a lot when one person just knows more about something than the other. Maybe one of you is a wizard in the kitchen, or a genius with money, or speaks another language. When you teach and learn from each other, you create this incredible bond. Some psychologists even call it growth-oriented intimacy. It's so cool because you're not just partners, you're actively helping each other grow. And this is all about the fun of it all. It's the trickster versus the controller. It's that dynamic of playful conflict. You know exactly what I'm talking about. One person stirs up some lighthearted mischief, like, "Hey, did you eat the last of my snacks?" And the other one pretends to be all annoyed, playing the part of the rule keeper. It's this little back and forth that creates so much humor and all those inside jokes. It's just a great way to keep that playful spark going. Okay, so for our last script, we need to do a super quick dive into a classic psychology theory. It's called transactional analysis, or TA. The basic idea is that we all have three ego states we operate from:
The parent, who's all about nurturing and rules, the adult, who's the logical one, and the child, who's playful, emotional, and sometimes dependent. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most well-known dynamic.
You guessed it, the parent and the child roles. This is when one partner shows they care through guidance. Don't forget your jacket, or you really should get to bed, you've got that big meeting tomorrow. And the other partner gets to be more playful or dependent or even a little stubborn. Now, this can feel incredibly comforting and safe, but this is the one dynamic that really comes with a big warning sign. If you get stuck in these roles permanently, it can cause some serious problems. And that right there leads us to probably the single most important point of this whole thing. What is the one thing that separates a fun, healthy dynamic from one that becomes unhealthy or even toxic? It all boils down to one single word: fluidity. That's the golden rule. In a really healthy relationship, these roles are totally fluid. They're interchangeable. The person who's the caregiver one day can be the one needing care the next. The one who leads the vacation planning might follow their partner's lead on a big family decision. The danger, the real danger, is when those roles become rigid, when they get set in stone, and one person is always the parent or always the follower. Because when those roles get locked in, man, that's just a recipe for trouble. It can create this unhealthy dependency where one person feels like they can't even function without the other. It leads to total burnout for the partner who's always stuck being the responsible one. And ultimately, it creates a huge power imbalance that can just completely wear away at the foundation of your partnership. So after all of this, what's the big takeaway? What's the one thing you should remember? It really comes down to this one simple but really powerful metaphor. Just let this sink in for a second. Roles are a game, not a cage. They're supposed to be a fun way to play, to explore different sides of yourselves, and to connect with each other in new ways. But the second a role stops feeling like a choice and starts to feel like a prison you're trapped in, that's the red flag. That's when you know the game isn't healthy anymore. So I'll leave you with this to think about. In your own relationship, what roles do you and your partner play? Are you the caregiver, the trickster, the leader? And here's the most important question. Are you free to switch? Are you playing a game together? Or are you maybe locked in a cage? Answering that honestly, well, it can tell you an awful lot.